Hey guys, welcome back to Vinceville Custom. So today we're going to do a work in progress video of utilizing AK Interactive Water Gel effects onto this anime kit that I've been doing a test run with. Now, long story short, I'm going to link the video in the description below of doing basically a product test run of Smooth-On's Freeform Sculpt to sculpt this base and their EpoxaCast 690 to create this water, ocean water stuff here. So if you want to see how I created all this, go and check out that video below, and it'll kind of bring you up to speed of why I want to make like a little bit of ocean rippling with on top of here that I couldn't do with the EpoxaCast stuff. So this is why I tell a lot of people is if you want to get into the hobby, or if you've been into the hobby for a long time and you want to try new products that are out there, go out, get yourself a damaged statue, get yourself a cheap anime kit like this, probably with like $30, $40, $60 on eBay. Put it together and just kind of test it out with some paints, see if there's any reactions to chemicals like the EpoxaCast stuff and stuff like that. So I've had this kit in my possession for ages. So I decided just to slap her together real quick, not really overthink the paint up, and just focus on the base and get used to it and see how all these chemicals work. So my last step is I really want to create ocean rippling. I want to make sure that this water has some motion to it because it's very still water right now, and ocean water isn't very still, especially if you're at the edge of it where the sand meets the water. So this AK Interactive stuff is really cool. I've seen some videos on YouTube on this stuff, and I see what people do is they slap it on there and they use an airbrush at a very, very low PSI and they sort of push it. And then they just let it dry, and then what they might do is the next day they'll do a little bit more and stuff. So this stuff is sort of like, as you see at the bottom, it looks like Elmer's glue. It sort of almost smells like Elmer's glue, but when it cures up, it's very clear. But I think there's like these tiny, tiny little like plastic beads in there that are crystal clear beads, and I think that's what helps to give it like a little bit of that not pure flatness look. It kind of gives it a little bit more of a rippling and stuff like that. So I think this is a really good idea to test this stuff out on here if I could get some kind of like waves going around the feet and make this alive a little bit more, because I couldn't do it with the way it was curing up and everything before. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get set up when I get a chance. I'm going to slap a lot of this water gel on. We'll kind of show you how I'm going to do it with the airbrush. And then I might have to do a couple layers. Like I really might have to do like one layer one night, come back the next day after it cures up. Or even if I do it in the morning and it cures up by the end of the day, it goes. So this stuff, like I said, this isn't really potent. Think of this stuff like Elmer's glue. It's very white. You can use water to kind of thin it down if you want to, or you can leave it like that. But I think from what I understand is you can't slap it on too thick, otherwise the inside never really cures. But I think once you do put it on and it does cure very clear, and you want to create that little bit of a white like, you know, ocean foam on it, then I think you could use like a paintbrush and sort of hit it in areas. I don't know, we'll see what happens. So I'm going to get set up on the desk when I get a chance, and we're going to start trying out these water gel effects. Okay, I'm going to start applying some of this gel effect. So this is kind of what it looks like. It's just kind of like a paste. I'm going to do sort of like ocean waves. So I want to go like a wave going across here, and then I think I'm going to kind of like split it around the foot and come around in this area, and maybe a little bit more there, just so it's kind of like, you know, waving and stuff. So basically, I've used this stuff before. Like I said, you can use it with paintbrush. You can use any kind of thing you want just to kind of slap it on. I'm going to go onto the airbrush table after I apply this stuff and kind of use the airbrush to mess with it. So they said you can use water with it. I've used water with the past when I want to really kind of go a little bit thinner, but I think we're going to experiment and try a little bit thicker and just see how this works out. The airbrush helps to give it like that waviness and really do it, because you could do it with your paintbrush, but I think it really works better with the airbrush. I never really went this thick before on this, but whatever, let's experiment. And I think something else I'll try down the line is sort of use this stuff with maybe a little bit of a color in it. I don't know, see how that kind of works out. So that's the idea, is that's kind of like where I want that to go. And then I want another wave sort of breaking up around here, I guess, kind of coming a little bit this way. Sort of come around here, a little bit around the shell, go up against the shell area. Sort of come like that. So I think that'll kind of look pretty cool. Now I might have to do like another layer tomorrow or later today once the stuff cures up. We're going to kind of see. I really want to get this pretty thick on here. Now this stuff, like I said, it smells just like almost like Elmer's glue in a sense. A little bit maybe thicker. A little bit more potent to it, I guess you could say. But it's not bad. If you get it on your hands, it's just kind of like glue. You know, like Elmer's glue and stuff. You can kind of just wash it off. It's nothing really bad at all. So let's kind of throw a lot more of this over in here. Alright, so that's pretty much all I really want to do that. So we're going to go over to the airbrush now. Throw it on like a really low PSI, and we'll try to kind of like give it like wave looks, and then just let it cure for the day and see what happens. Alright, we're over on the airbrush table now. Really simple. Just get your airbrush, low PSI, and sort of maybe a little bit more pressure. A little too much. And just kind of have fun with it. Now, I need to okay, so first time I'm ever doing this, kind of just experimenting. Maybe I should add a little water to it. I'm not really sure. So what we'll do is we'll grab our paintbrush with the water. And just kind of maybe a little water down around the edges here, kind of rake it up a little bit. Now the cool thing is it's all white now, but it will cure up, at least it should. Worst case scenario, I can actually put this in front of a heater, sort of heat it. So yeah, adding a little bit of water, you start getting a little bit more of a flow. That's kind of cool. Let's kind of hit it with a little bit of a low PSI now. Yeah, so it kind of spreads a little bit more. So it's sort of creating a little bit of a wave, and then what we could do is kind of hit it this way a little bit more. Alright, so what I'm going to do is, this is going to take a little while, so I don't want to sit here and have this going the whole entire time. So what we'll do is we'll kind of do a little bit of a speed up. I guess what I have to do is just kind of use some water around the edges, blend some of it out. But it's sort of kind of creating a little bit of a wave going there. And then what might have to happen is once this cures up, and it's sort of kind of like that clear, I might have to go in with a little bit of like paint work and kind of do some like dry brushing to bring out the wave a little more. We'll see how that works out. Alright, so this is where I'm at. I had to add a little bit of water to it because it was a little too thick, and what happened is I'm trying to get a little bit of a smooth ocean water around her feet. I'm not going to try to go crazy with waves, because if I was going to go crazy with waves, I wouldn't have added any water, and I would leave it like this picture, where it's got this crazy ocean wave splattering going against the ship. I'm not trying to go that route with this item. Maybe down the line, if I ever work on another project and I need to do it, I'll practice a little bit more. But this is just trying to get a little bit of a feel for this. So that's why I always tell people, if you want to get into these products and you want to test them and you want to see what they can do, get yourself a cheap anime kit, test it out, and see what is going to happen. So we're probably early in the morning right now. We're going to let this cure up for the day. So either tonight, maybe we'll try another layer, depending on how well it cures, or maybe tomorrow. I'm not sure if I'm going to leave this in front of a heater or not. I might try to just let it dry naturally and just see how it looks, because I don't mind if a little bit of a white foam is kind of within the center of it, because that's kind of the idea of the ocean water. But like I said, I'm definitely going to come back and try another layering on it, because I think I'm going to leave this area sort of how it is, but I think this area back here I might want to make it a little bit thicker and see how that works out. So we'll come back either tonight or tomorrow, and we'll just keep plugging away on this and see if we can get some really cool effects. Okay, so it's the next day, and the water gel effects works great. I love this stuff. It really works great on stuff like clear resin or this epoxy, where you pour it in and it's a really flat surface. But when you want to start adding like waves and motion to it, this stuff works out really well. So you can see we got some waves going, maybe in different lighting. We'll do, later on we'll kind of get into it. You can see what's going on. What I want to do is add another layer onto this stuff. Now normally when I test stuff like this, I don't want to over test my products and waste the materials just on testing the stuff, but you still got to learn the stuff. So if this was like a brand new bottle and I was ready to use this on other projects, I would say, okay, I think I got enough experience with this and I'm done with my test project. But I've had this for a few months now, almost since the beginning of the springtime, and we're kind of near the end of the year, and I only have about up to this hazard line left. So I figure I might as well just use what's left in the bottle, do another layer of the waves, get a little bit more feel of adding a second layer on there, how it's going to look. And then this way, when I'm ready to work on some future projects down the line with some of the water gel effects, I could buy a fresh bottle. I'm not a fan of buying products just to buy them and never use them, or just say, oh, it's just better to have them. I always like to buy the stuff when I'm ready to work on the project and get a feel for it, because I've done that in the past with tools and products where you buy up all the stuff, and then next thing you know, it's like a year or two gone by and you never even use the products, and either they're bad or you're still just never going to use them. So I figure I got a project or two or three of them I plan on using water down the line. So I figure when I'm ready to work on those projects, I can buy fresh, like either epoxy or clear resin, and I can buy a fresh bottle of this stuff and I can use it down the line. So I just want to use this stuff up for two reasons. One, I'm afraid it's going to go bad, even though I put it in a Ziploc bag and I make sure it's tight. And two, I guess I just want to get more experience with the stuff and, go from there. So I'm going to go grab my paintbrush and some water. We're going to add another layer on there and finish using up what's left in the bottle. We'll let it cure up for the day. We'll come back tomorrow, and hopefully by then that'll let me know if I need to add a little bit of maybe some dry brushing in there to create a little bit more foaminess on top of the rippling. And then we'll see how the project looks at the end. So let's get set up. Okay, it's the next day, and the AK Interactive stuff dried up beautifully. I really like how this stuff cured up. It's really nice and hard now. Not really soft in any of these areas. And like certain parts of it kind of cured up translucent, while the thicker areas is kind of like that, you know, whiteness. So we got a nice, good, like ocean rippling around her feet, which is really, really cool now. So it's not just pure flat surface. Now it feels a little bit more like ocean kind of waves, and that worked out really good. Now if I didn't really want that whiteness to it, what I would have to do is I would have to probably thin it down with a little bit more water and actually do layering and layering and layering, getting to the point where you see that translucent without any of that white cloudiness. But with this, we wanted the white cloudiness because that's kind of like what the ocean water looks like. So one last test I want to do is just grab a little bit of this white paint, do a little bit of dry brushing, and maybe just sort of kind of bring up some of the areas up here a little bit more, kind of give it a little bit more rippling look. Just an experiment, not going too crazy, but because of all that you know, airbrushing and kind of that little waves, we're starting to create a little bit more dynamic look to it, where you're kind of making the, you know, top parts pop out just a little bit more, you know. And then if you want to grab some of the other stuff over here, because, you know, there is a little bit of stuff around there. And it's just dry brushing, nothing too crazy. So this is a really, really good, cool stuff. I really like this. Now, I saw this in a couple videos I looked at on YouTube where people sort of did this. And they kind of bring up the ocean water a little bit. And they kind of just bring out that detail. And it just starts really bringing it together a little bit more, as you can see now. So you can see we're hitting areas like this. You don't really need a lot of paint, just a little bit of dry brushing, and you're making it pop a little bit more, and it kind of blends out a little bit like, you know, ocean, where this is, see, we got all this nice detail popping out, and this isn't really, you know, popping yet. So this is pretty good stuff. Really, really cool. It's always fun to experiment. So we're going to hit these areas a little bit too. Wow, this is really, really good. This could really open up some fun custom projects if you guys are working on anything and you really want to try some different things. And you don't really need to go crazy on it, just enough to kind of pull up some of that detail. Now, of course, you know, I gotta experiment. I gotta keep practicing. You gotta really try some new things, new techniques. Watch some more videos of other people on YouTube and tutorials out there, because other people might have you know, better tips and stuff where they might say, oh, if you use this chemical, you can get this kind of look. If you use this, you know, this or that, you can really bring stuff together. So this is coming together pretty well. Yeah, so if I was going to go full-blown, like full-blown, I wanted this thing to look as detailed as possible. This was going to be like, you know, a finished kit that was going to go on a shelf, and I really wanted to really go all out. Of course, I would have more of the AK Interactive stuff. I probably would have done some stuff around here, maybe do a little bit more around the shell, you know, maybe make some more splashing coming up around here, like really splash up around her feet and go crazy. So that's the one thing that's really cool about that stuff, is if you want to take it to a different level, you really can. And you can really go all out and crazy with it. But, you know, like I said, we only had a little bit left. Get a little bit more feel for this stuff and really see what it can do. So that looks pretty good. I think that really makes it pop a lot more now. So you can really see how just adding a little bit of the white detail and just trying to grab all these little waves and stuff around there of that detail. Like over here, we can kind of pop out a little bit more there. And let's try and see what happens if we kind of... Yeah, I probably would have had it out a little bit more around that areas, but... So if you look from the side, we got a little bit of waving going around like that. So that looks pretty cool. So let's go set it up at a better spot to look at it, how it looks far away. And then I think this little side project is done. Alright, we are all finished up. I really like the way this stuff worked out pretty well. It really brought the whole base to life a lot more than when it was. I really enjoyed this AK Interactive stuff with the gel effects. I'm going to have to look into some of their other products down the line. But just by adding these waves to the base, brought it to life a little bit more. It gives a lot more motion to the character than just standing there in a puddle of water. And it just tells a little bit more of a story. Now, I could have gone to a whole new level with adding more waves. I could have done maybe some splashing up more against her foot here. I could have did some more splashing like foam around there. But I just ran out of the chemical. And I just really wanted to get a feel for how this stuff really works. Because the way I work is I can watch tons of videos on YouTube. But if I don't actually try and attempt it, I don't understand it as well. So by actually testing this stuff and getting a feel for it, it works out better now and I got an understanding. So, you know, that's why I always say if you guys are getting into the hobby or you are into the hobby and you really want to try some new things, whether you do anime kits, superhero, monster, whatever, you can take something like this anime kit where she's got a bathing suit on and you could put her in a pool setting next to a diving board. You could put her into like a smaller pool like she's standing there, or maybe on stairs like she's going into water. You can put her into like a lake scene where she's kind of like standing in the water on a lake and she's got like a beach towel next to her on the grass. You could put her into like, you know, maybe there's just tons of options out there if you really want to get into it and you really want to buy the chemicals and create some new stuff. Because I know a lot of anime kits out there, usually when people paint them up, they put them on like a black base or something. But something like this, it's really simple. Get yourself some epoxy, get a bowl or a dish, pour in some clear epoxy in there, and then add some AK Interactive stuff on it, and you got yourself a beach scene. So, I mean, it worked out pretty good. Now that I have an understanding on how this stuff works, I'm already thinking about a lot of projects down the line. So, if I'm ever working on a character that's kind of like, you know, maybe in New York City that they just slapped, you know, a manhole cover, like water's coming out of it, or a fire hydrant's broke, or they're stomping on like a puddle. I know I could use this AK Interactive stuff to kind of do some splash effects with the epoxy clear. You know, if I'm doing a scene in, you know, like a little bit more of a crazier waterfall, or maybe more rapid water like in a stream that's splashing against rocks, I know I can use this AK Interactive stuff for that now. So, worked out pretty good. And like I said, at the end, just adding a little bit of white dry brushing paint to bring out some of these details. It makes it a lot more, it makes it pop a lot more. So, there you go. That is testing the AK Interactive stuff. Let me know what you guys think. Is it going to open up some doors for you guys if you work on kits and stuff? Maybe you want to pick up a bottle or two and do a little bit of experimentation. And that's pretty much it. So, thanks for watching, and we'll be back with some more videos.